All right, the next section is going to be all about starting to learn the ability to self-correct. And this should come usually about 4 or 6 months in. You'll start learning the very basic skills of that. And then I would say probably about a year or 2 years in, you start getting really good at it, or you should be starting to get really good at it. But if you can start framing the idea of trying to self-correct, that's going to be a lot better. So what I'm saying with that is that even though maybe you don't necessarily know a technique, maybe you're doing a guard pass that you've never done before, some of those same principles that you've learned before, you'll be able to put in play in this particular thing. And you'll start to get the feeling of, okay, this just doesn't feel right, or this person would do this or that. And once you start to feel that, try to believe in your instincts. Try to say, okay, I would make this correction and do this. And then what I want you to do is go to your instructor and say, hey, what am I doing wrong? And then you go through your basic one, not with the corrections that you've made. And then see if his corrections match up with your corrections. If they do, that's great. You're starting to learn to self-correct. And then if they don't, show him your idea of your self-corrected one. And then with that, you two can have a little bit of a dialogue on if you feel that it's actually a proper thing, or if maybe he's making some tweak, or maybe he's doing it this way instead. The reason I want you to do it that way is if you just go and show him your self-corrected one, he might say, okay, this is wrong or whatever. I really want you to develop an idea and then almost like a hypothesis, and bring it to him and say, okay, coach, is this right or is this wrong? Because the chances are is that if it's right, you're going to feel really good about it. And if it's wrong, that change is going to stick in it a lot better, because you've already kind of formatted your mind on thinking this particular way or knowing this particular thing. And then when that's altered, you have a lot better chance of remembering it. At least teaching and coaching theory says that. So that's the reason why you're doing that. And then the more that you do those, you start to be able to self-correct. And now, for me personally, I didn't learn this until probably brown belt. And honestly, so if you're already blue, purple, or brown out there, and you're like, man, I'm terrible at this. I was too, and it becomes a really cool tool for pretty much picking up any new skill. Once you've developed all these, some people will call them concepts, some people will call them, basics or ideas, whatever. You want to go and learn a new technique, it makes that way easier. But for some reason, I just said that I wasn't very, intelligent, and I couldn't pick up these new skills, and I had a very fixed mindset. And so whenever I would try to learn something new, it would be absolutely terrible. I would fail at it pretty much almost every single time. And I would look like an idiot. I can remember going to several gyms and they would teach techniques, and they would actually some of them would laugh at me. Just because I looked so terrible doing this, yet I had a brown belt. I had won the worlds at purple belt, and won several tournaments and all sorts of stuff, but I would go and drill and I would look absolutely terrible. And so around brown belt, I really started doing a lot of, self-correcting, learning basically how to learn better, and mindsets and things like that. And that's when it really started to click for me, of this idea of self-correction and being able to, without ever having learned a technique, be able to take your frame of reference from other techniques and put it in to this new technique and have a good idea for it. So maybe it's not done exactly the same way that you had seen either in a video or coached by your instructor, but it's fundamentally sound. So again, when you're learning a new technique and it feels a little bit wrong, try to come up with a solution as to what you would do, and then again, do it the way that feels wrong to your instructor. Ask him what he would change with it, or what you're doing wrong, and if it's the same thing, great. If it's not, like you said, it should stick in your mind better, and then ask him why you would do it that way. And don't ask him in a dickish way, like ask him in a very honest way, where you're trying to figure out that information. A lot of times students will come to me and they'll say, well why? And it sounds like an angry way, and to me, that's standoffish rather than you two trying to communicate as a student and an instructor, or a coach and an athlete. So try to be very cognitive about how you speak to your instructor that way, so it doesn't come off as being rude.